a large portion of the student body in the country work on the mobile phone as the first computing device, okay? And if you look at statistics, right, of a 900 million mobile user base in India, only 10% of them or 12% of them have a laptop to create anything at all. So the lack of creative engagement on a student audience is also a challenge. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, typically a panel after lunch is normally a huge effort to keep everyone awake. Okay, so one is that if you want to move forward to the front row, nothing like it, you will get a better view of the absolutely great panel that we have. That's one. And second, you will be able to laugh louder because we're going to have a little bit of fun and try and make sure it's interactive as possible. Okay. My name is Sunil. I am with Intel. You all use Intel, and we are all here because of Intel. Okay, so I keep saying that IT happens because of Intel. Okay, and I've been at Intel now for a few quarters. I was before that with AWS, and their team also is here for a long time. So the panel really talks around the industry, academia disconnect, or the challenges that we have today. And the idea really is to actually have a conversation with the panel around what we could do to try and fix or try and find ideas on how we can solve the gaps that appear between industry and academia right now. That's fundamentally what it's a heavy topic, so we'll try and figure out how to make sure we have an interesting conversation around it. Okay, we have an absolutely cool panel with us. Okay, I'm going to quickly ask them to introduce themselves as to what they've been doing. So we're looking at introductions. One, your journey so far. Okay, two, what are the fun things that you do outside of work that maybe is good to talk about? Okay, let's start with you, ma'am.
So very good afternoon, and I think as put by Sunil, a very difficult session to take up post-lunch. First of all, I would like to thank Digi for giving me this opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel. So I'm Dr. Lasya, a consultant radiologist by profession. So into healthcare, I was a practicing radiologist, still a practicing radiologist. So that's how I started my journey. So I was more into the healthcare business. And then probably 4 years back, that's when I started entering into the education sector, right? So now we run a group of institutions in Chennai, Coimbatore, and in Hosur. So I right now grapple with my consultant radiologist role and my educational management role. So that's how it works right now. But my core is always in my passion, that's my radiology profession. So that's something that I feel is my core. But this is something that I have started taking up to probably in the last 3 to 4 years full time, looking into what best can be done for the institution. So I'm a second generation into the business. So it was founded by my father, and now I've taken it up from him and I'm running it. And the journey has been good so far, and I hope it'll only be better going forward. Administration to me was something that I've been learning on the job, to be very honest. I wasn't prepared for it. I did not go to any B school. I did not learn management anywhere. So this is something that I have learned on the job. And I think the session just before us, when they spoke about legacy, when they spoke about how from one generation to the next generation, the challenges, I think whatever was discussed was just like schooling for me, you know. I think, and also personal experiences of what I have gone through, because it's not a very easy transition always, right? So the thinking is different. What we come with, ideas might be a little different, might not be always agreeable. But I think we find a middle path and we agree on that and we execute it. And that's how my journey has been till now. And what do I do outside my work? And I love travel. I love history. So that's something that keeps me going. So that's a break that I always take. So to explore what's around the world. And that's what keeps me going as well. Thank you.
Happy afternoon, everyone. Sunil, thanks for having me, and thanks to Digii100 organizers for having invited me to this session. I really, while I was planning to share whatever I have to share here, it was quite useful for me to reflect on my journey. So for that, I should thank Rajesh for having insisted that I come and share with the audience here. I'll start with the second part, which is here. I love, my name is Ashok Bakthavathsalam, by the way, part of the KG group. I think I'm a third generation entrepreneur with first generation entrepreneur challenges, and I'll tell you why that is the case. But the easier part, I love playing squash. I'm a coffee enthusiast, so I know the best effort to taste ratio that you can get. So if I don't make it given you much sense through the session, come talk to me after the session. I'll tell you how to brew a wonderful black coffee. My journey has been for the last approximately 25 years. I've worn the hat of both a software entrepreneur as well as a promoter of higher education institutions. Approximately 1998 is when I started my software journey in building KGiSL as a software company. And in about 2000 is when we started the first higher education institutions, the first of three that I would like to talk about today. Today the journey is, we today in software and services, we're approximately crossing about 600 crores, employing about 3,000 plus people, both in software and services. We are one of the known leaders providing SaaS solutions for two domains, insurance and capital. Insurance is predominantly in the Southeast Asian market, and capital market solutions are predominantly in India. On the higher education side, we have approximately 10,000 plus students between arts and science, engineering, and postgraduate. We are among all the other panelists that I at least had a sense that I would be sharing the stage, probably the newest autonomous player to join the session. So if many of you are still non-autonomous, much of what I have to share might be very relevant to you, because only 2024 is when our arts and science became autonomous, and 2025 is when our engineering became autonomous. The other hat I also wear is also being part of a trustee of KG Hospital, a not-for-profit healthcare institution in Coimbatore. We celebrated the 52nd year anniversary, particularly interested in how IT and solutions can become part of the next 50 years of how we think healthcare also will transform. It's another area that I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Balasubramaniam Iyer. I come from Bombay. I work with Jio Platforms, and I'm very happy to be here thanks to the invitation that Digi has offered to me. In fact, the way they invited me is that they knew one of my weakest points. And therefore they said that, okay, listen, if you can come to this event in Coimbatore, we'll make sure that you can actually go to Guruvayur temple in the background. So when you heard the chief guest say that in the morning, it is basically because he's going to be by piggyback today evening when I have to take him to Guruvayur. He did the same thing with the chief guest. He said, if you are here, we'll make sure there is a guy who will take you to Guruvayur. And then yesterday evening, both of us get to meet. And that's how it happened that I'm here. And I want to share with you that, yes, while I have been working for about close to 4 decades now in the corporate world, primarily the first 15 of them has been in FMCG and let's say MNC kind of companies like Whirlpool, Coca-Cola, etc. And then finally, I've now completed about 25 plus years in Reliance Industries, but across multiple projects, which is launching the Jio. Jio is the latest one, but before that, I did the Infocom when we actually brought telephony to everybody's hands. That's the first one that we did in 2001, 2002. Then we brought in the revolution of retail, so the consumerism boom that we had, where most of us today, we don't think twice in terms of the kind of produce that you consume. You can actually walk into any kind of a hotel or a restaurant or to any kind of mall. It's a very comfortable experience for most of us. But then think about it, let's say 2005, 2006, going into an air-conditioned shop meant thinking twice, is it going to be double expensive? It's been barely a decade or two that suddenly India now thinks and works very differently in the consumerism space. Of course, we've got the biggest and the brightest brands in the country. In fact, as an anecdotal, I could tell you that when we had launched Hamleys, the uppity UK audience and the trainers from there came to us and they actually told us that, listen, India is a land of small shopkeepers. The kind of consumption that you do in India, I don't think you will be able to afford, because Hamleys is, after all, the toys that are meant for the royal family. Today, Reliance owns Hamley and we supply toys to the royal family. That's the turnaround that has happened in the way India has become a consumeric capital of the world. The best of the brands are available here, and our children today don't think twice about the way they consume products, whether they are domestic or global. Now, going on to the next generation, which was that of Jio, we've heard enough and more stories about how we've survived COVID or how we've actually been consuming your entire financial fintech revolution. All of these things, we've managed to do it. In fact, I remember that as a team of 10 of us who walked into a room, when Mr. Ambani came in and told us, just start doing some research around this, we didn't even know what to do research on. We did not know what we were going to be creating. And from that day to today, what Jio is all about. And then from Jio becoming Jio Platforms, as a company that globally some of the biggest, brightest companies have invested in, we are happy to serve you with all of these. So this is briefly about me. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much on that. I'm going to keep peppering this session with some facts about Intel, because I happen to be there from them. Got to figure out a way to land that in, but I'll figure that out, okay? So absolutely critical. So one of the things that, just to start this conversation out, is that if you look at it, we've moved from a market where people said that the graduates coming out are unemployable, okay? We moved from there to a situation where they're employable, but not industry ready. Okay, somewhere there's a disconnect between students graduating and them being industry ready. Okay, this question really is to Lasya, to start Dr. Lasya to figure out, give us some inputs as to what do you think is actually broken between industry requirements, industry ready requirements, and what academia is producing as graduates in the market today.
So I think in the sidelines, we were just discussing with few of the other members that this topic never becomes irrelevant, right? I think we've been discussing this particular topic for the last decade or so, but I think it's still is relevant now is the irony. I mean, it's something that probably is a sad state of affairs as well, where probably the industry and the academia, I think, co-own this problem. Right? It's important that the industry and academia co-own the problem. It is not only the academia's problem or only the industry's problem. So the solution can only be arrived when both co-own this particular issue and come up with a solution, because in the end, it's a win-win situation for both, because the industry needs it and the academia also needs it. So where is the problem in terms of the industry-academia alignment, right? I think I would like to break it down from the foundation, that is the curriculum. Right? I think there was a discussion even in the prior session where we spoke about how curriculum needs to be relevant, how it is necessary, that it is updated with what's there in the industry. But the challenge is the industry moves at such fast pace. By the time we have our BOS meeting, I don't know if people know it's a Board of Studies meeting, we come up with what has to be aligned, the name of the syllabus, the name of the course, everything. It becomes irrelevant in 4 years or 3 years. So a graduate who's actually pursuing that particular content when he's just entering the campus and when he's passing out, most of what he studied has become irrelevant or obsolete, right? It's that pace at which the industry is progressing, right? I really don't know whether we can, as academia, also progress at that multitude, you know, because practically, I don't know whether it is possible with that multitude effect, but what we can actually do is make the curriculum more agile, right? Make the curriculum more adaptable. So what's important is the core is always core. I think that is something that we should never compromise on when it comes to teaching. But what is more important is the application, the skills that we actually teach with the course or the curriculum. So skill-enabled curriculum, skill-enabled courses are, I think, the need of the hour, which will help us make the graduates employable when they come out. And the other thing which I feel, which is very critical now, is adaptability. Critical thinking, design thinking. See, these are topics which are taught in almost all institutions right now. Because why it's important is a student who, when he graduates out, right, he should be able to think out of the box. Because what you study in college might not always be what you're actually practicing, right? Because things keep changing. Because even in a big conglomerate or a big corporate, there is a lot of unlearning, relearning, and reskilling done for your own employees, right? That's only possible when you keep your antenna up, when you're able to think differently, think out of the box, be adaptable, be agile, so that you'll be able to fit into any role you get into based on what the technology demands. So that's very important. The third thing is, I think most of the institutions do partner with industries, where industries are part of your BOS, part of your boards, where they do give inputs. But what I feel is somewhere that's only in the curriculum perspective, right? What happens after that is the delivery of that curriculum. I feel that's something that we'll have to focus on, how this curriculum is actually delivered to the student in the classroom. That's essential, that's very important. And one way where we are helping that is also having professor of practice right now, where we have industry people who are actually delivering the content for the students in the classroom, and that's a good thing. But one important factor here when I talk about delivery is faculty, right? So how do we empower our faculty? How do we train our faculty so that they're able to understand what's happening in the industry? So that's where the industry internships for the faculty plays a major role, where we actually send them so that they do understand what is the problem statement, what is going on in the industry right now, so that that can be taught in the classroom. Because I think content is available, right? Content is available abundantly right now for the students. So the question arises, why should they come to the campus, right? So when they come to the campus, what they actually do is problem solving. They actually sit together, work on industry solutions so that they're able to think together as a team and deliver the solutions that is necessary for the industry. And that's how I think our teaching methodologies and assessments should also go into, right? Rather than your regular assessments. And I think these are the few points I feel, for example, if we can work on, the gap I think should reduce significantly.
Can I add a layer of coloring on this? I think for the next panelist, which is that with AI coming in, okay, there is significant amount of access to answers that students have today, okay, which also is leading to a lot of challenges with regard to the ability to learn. I'll give you an example. Like last night at dinner, I was with Dr. Sadgopan and Dr. Natarajan from PSG, and I was having difficulty remembering a person's name in the room, okay? And I was struggling, and the person said hi to me. I had no clue who she was. And I was telling him, I said, something has changed radically. And he said, I don't think it's a problem of retrieval. It's a problem of storage, okay? And he said that, how much of your interaction have you retained as storage that's allowing you to retrieve as quickly as required? And I haven't thought of it that way, but I think the fact that we're so used to looking at the phone and checking on who that is before we actually speak has made us forget that we can actually remember things quite easily. And I think that dependency is coming in. And I think that when you apply the AI story in education, the challenge always remains that how do you hold the attention of the child in the classroom? How do you make sure that the child is actually absorbing the stuff in the classroom? And that's a big challenge across K-12 that we're hearing again and again. And higher education is not far behind around how that's going to change. So I'm going to take this question to Dr. Ashok with regard to his experience around managing industry. He's managed a large business, and then education. How does this translate to make sure that we're able to get students to graduate industry ready rather than just job ready?
Yeah, so Sunil, one of the things that I forgot to mention as part of my journey is that the group is also established and runs the largest special economic in Coimbatore, and we contribute almost 65% of all software exports from that zone. 50,000 people work in that zone. One of the earliest tenants to come into that zone was one of my friend ran a company called Ogam, they are a market research outsourcing company, which eventually got acquired by Merkel, $3 billion Merkel. I just want to take that as a case study in terms of how, I told Sunil, I gave him all the marketing talk. Look, come to Coimbatore. This is the talent place. You can't. I mean, he had an office in Bombay, Mumbai by then. We are family friends. First of all, he kind of said, I must be selling something authentic. So he came, and then it was a year and a half. And Sunil called, I invited him over, we were having lunch, and I asked Sunil, how's your, yes, Sunil Mirani. So then I asked him, Sunil said, no, I'm not able to find talent. So I said, look, this is a problem, then we have to sit down, and we, over lunch and a piece of napkin, we decided how we could engage, right? We established something, look, we'll run a 6-week program where we will call it the Extended Placement Interview for Carriers, right? EPIC. We have to come up with all kind of acronyms being part of the industry. So that meant we would, UGM would select a set of 60 students, engage them over 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, they would again shortlist and decide whom to hire. During that 6 weeks, UGM and our KGiSL Institute of Technology, KITE, would deliver the curriculum, and UGM would get to see very close up how the 60 students were performing. During that 6 weeks, they got that additional analytics, data analytics, plus market research, domain knowledge and fundamentals. And at the end of 6 weeks, the student, if they succeeded, they got a job. If they didn't, at least they got a certificate from UGM. Now that creates that engagement. We're talking about academia engagement. I think we have to go to the Gen Z engagement. And today you need to find methods. This is one method by which you said, look, even if you don't get placed, you're getting that market validated certificate. You can go to one of UGM's competitors and get another job. If you don't succeed. Just as an example of how we have done that bit to become industry ready. One recent example is TNQ. Again, who came in as a tenant to our ACZ, is part of the campus. This is a completely different kind of an engagement where TNQ said, look, we are going to bring our own lab inside. And within that lab, they have selected 7 students. And those 7 students are today creating a version of their own customized version of plagiarism checker, which they have to use. They are in the business of document management, document publishing. And I'm very happy that the students are getting modest amount, 7,000, 8,000 rupees per month. But the number is not important. The fact that those students are engaged, they are on the right step towards getting interns and probably getting placed in TNQ. So with the AI, again, these are all, in the whole sequence, the total population of the graduating class, this is still not even 10%. The remaining 90% has always been a challenge, like Doctor said. But I think the challenge is becoming more and more manageable today if you use AI very effectively. And that's something that we are learning ourselves with the autonomous nature, status that we've received. I think we are putting in multiple experiments to see how that can bring in and increase this percentage of success.
So Bala, I'm going to add another coloring on this. Okay, one of the problems I'm going to add on top of that is that a large portion of the student body in the country work on the mobile phone as the first computing device. Okay, and if you look at statistics, right, of 900 million mobile user base in India, only 10% of them or 12% of them have a laptop to create anything at all. So the lack of creative engagement on a student audience is also a challenge, where consuming content is very easy on a tablet, on a mobile phone, but building an app, for example, you require a device for that. And if you go beyond metros, access to a good quality device to actually start coding and building applications becomes so much more difficult. So when you're looking at the entire idea of building an industry academia connect, I think access to a computing device also is one of the elements that Bala can speak about, because I think he's working on something around that.
Sure. I'll also like to refer back to your earlier example, which is in terms of your memory failing device. Right? Talked about it outside, and we said that we will bring that up here. So I'm sure most of us have some kind of a mobile phone, or maybe a couple of them in your pockets. And you have a phone book which has got a whole few hundred people who are listed out there, including some new friends you made out here today. But if you were to actually think in terms of being able to make a phone call, maybe even to your most loved ones, I'm not too sure if you remember the phone number. So there has been a problem here. You may not remember the phone number, and if you are actually without your phone, or if your phone actually got, God forbid, if your phone got lost, you would imagine that would be a panic close to a cardiac failure. Now, that's the situation and the world that we are currently living in. We had a situation where Rajesh, who came up on the stage, he was presenting something, and one of his college mates said, "Hey, I know Rajesh because Rajesh and her husband used to work together and study together, etc., etc." And she sent me a message about it, saying, "I say hi to Rajesh." Now, Sunil and I meet Rajesh outside as soon as he steps off the stage. And I tell him that, "Hey, listen, so-and-so sends a hi to you." And he's scratching his head, wondering who is this lady whom you're talking about. So I said, "Okay, this is the person, this is the background." I showed, other than showing the name of the person, I did all the details and I showed him all the messages. He said, "Oh, yeah. 2024, she has sent me a message about her company." And he looks up all his WhatsApp messages and he finally locates her. And he says, "Yeah, please tell Sai that I also said hi to her. I think of her very often." When? Like what? I mean, have we become so shallow? But the fact is that our relationships, our engagement, our in-depth, whatever you want to call it, is all based on that transaction that happens on that phone for a minute, and then after you are moving on to the next one. So if we are becoming so shallow, obviously the outcome is also going to be the same. You started off with the topic between an industry and the academia. I mean, maybe we should not leave the government out of this, because they are the ones who created this whole system. Actually, as a vertical divide between the two. Because if you look back at our past, which I think some of us also talked about in the previous panels, there the government or the so-called kingdoms actually did not differentiate between academia and industry. Your Vanar, the system, was based on how well you were qualified or what you could do to pursue a career and what you could do, and that is how you were created. And then subsequently, the British came in and made that into a caste system for you, for all that I care, or even before for that matter. But we've ended up degenerating over a point of time, and now today you've got a further vertical divide, two verticals, one industry, the other is the academia, telling us who's going to get into which institute. That is one big story. And on the other side, saying that, okay, now that you got into an industry, you better start performing. Now, this is a problem because two independent verticals trying to produce something, both of them don't talk to each other. Almost like today's parents producing two kids and expecting them to start living happily ever after. And that's the world we are in. So we expect that things will automatically start working together. It's not going to happen. There is going to be a conscious effort of we having to work together. There is going to be a need for us, both in the industry level as well as in the academia, in terms of wanting to work on it. In fact, your earlier example in terms of saying I was not able to recollect who the person is, I'm sure I'm going to take back this idea back to our company and say that maybe using AI, we want to have a camera on our phone which can actually point at you and say, "Can you tell me who this person is?" So maybe he'll quickly tell me, "He's the guy who's inside, Intel inside, Sunil," and so on and so forth. And then I strike up a conversation with you. And then if you've already been my friend and your number is on my phone, it should say, "Hey, by the way, you know him, the last conversation you had with him was this." If your WhatsApp is there or active on my phone like it happened outside, it'll say, "See, this is the last conversation the two of you guys had, this is the topic. then I have my talking points also ready. Because my story up here is no longer functional in terms of understanding who am I dealing with. And since we have started relegating it to these devices that we are holding on to, and we continuing to give more away, and hence so beautifully that we've called it as artificial intelligence, which is now looking at wanting to govern us. Look at the rate at which we are so busily outsourcing everything that was so natural to us. That's the speed at which we are moving.
I'm going to add an example on what you just said. I was at a panel a couple of months back with Rajiv Makhni. I don't know if you know Rajiv Makhni, NDTV. He's the first tech influencer that was available, right? And on the panel, one of the panelists had this clip on his shirt that primarily was recording everything, just like the Ray-Ban glasses that you have, Meta glasses that you have now. And the question to him was that, what are you recording for? And he said that, I go back in the evening, I look at my day, and I figure out what are the people I should save as contacts to go back and connect again. So there is stuff already happening that way, which I don't think is a great idea, but it's working, already work in progress there. So I think that's already happening. So the second question really is that to increase the industry academia engagement, is research something that, the lack of research investments by industry over long term, is that one of the reasons why we have kind of a broken relationship with industry that is not driving curriculum and content adaptation or getting it ready for industry? Is that something that we're seeing in a large number?
So when it comes to research, right, so I think when we started out, when we spoke about how industry and academia should collaborate on various platforms in terms of curriculum design, in terms of delivery, assessment, and things like that. So one area where probably India is not doing very well is industry-led research, right, along with academia. So as we started out, we said we should co-own this problem, right? So when we look at partners as solution providers, this issue will never arise. So I think the industry mindset to invest in a lot of research-led laboratories where they work with the faculty in terms of co-patenting a lot of work, a lot of joint research, a lot of joint papers. I think this way, in research, there will be a lot of collaboration. And that's when actually the MOUs, the so-called MOUs that we actually sign, will be transformational. Otherwise, it's just a transactional relationship that we have in terms of industry and academia. So research plays an important role, and it's an important area where I think industry should collaborate with academia so that they can work together, because we've got good researchers. We've got good PhD graduates who are very good researchers in the academia who can actually collaborate with the industry. But I think the industry should also come forward to actually sit with them where they can work on. There are a lot of upcoming or important areas, thrust areas where they can work together. And I think that's only possible if that willingness is there from the industry to spend that time and the energy with the academia, because I think in the end it's mutually beneficial, right? It's not just only for the academia, it's mutually beneficial. And I think we grow as a country with research. I think research plays an important role. And I think we're starting somewhere. I don't think it is very bleak as how we are talking right now. We're starting somewhere, but I think the collaboration has to be much better.
On that example, right, I used to be at Microsoft for a very long time, and I remember doing all the MOUs with institutions, and the problem typically is that the MOU happens, we take a lot of photographs, sometimes it goes to the press, and optics is great, emails go around saying the world is changing with the MOU, etc., etc. And after a couple of months, we forget about the MOU and life continues, right? I think the problem, is that the initiative to actually execute against the MOU that you have typically fizzles out, okay? And I think one is the research part of it. Second is that I don't know how many of the MOUs really have research in it, but typically it's branding and content and access to devices and stuff like that, which is great. But I think it fizzles down with regard to execution of an MOU, making sure that you're able to drive the outcomes required from an MOU. Besides the photo op and the press coverage, everything else is in the back burner normally. And I think that's where the fundamental issue is, that how do you make sure that you take these industry association opportunities and actually deliver it downstream? Would you have any examples?
Actually, as an education system, we've been very weak on the research side. But what I feel is, I think the motivation or engagement of the faculty on what to research on is probably an area which even, not necessarily even research, even do problem solving. And in that context, I've always felt there's a need for, just like we have question banks, is there a problem statement bank to which local industry can contribute the problem? So which can be the starting point or the inspiration for research, or could just be critical problems. And then you also have this issue even within, for example, within Coimbatore, there probably there's a mismatch between the motivated set of companies and the hungry education institution. The mismatch is there, and that mismatch potentially could be solved with this problem statement bank, which then opens up democratically to faculty, students across the entire ecosystem to see who can pick up, and then the companies themselves select that you've responded well, and this is the basis on which we create an MOU, and that MOU becomes even more stronger because, again, the engagement is stronger because they've self-selected. And I think that's a space I think we continue to look. For example, being interested in healthcare. I've seen that so many, there are problem statements across 3 areas that any healthcare institution, for example, can pose to students and faculty. One, how do you innovate using latest technologies, not necessarily AI, how can technology come and have an impact on clinical delivery? And the second part is non-clinical delivery. And third would be just simple administration, run-of-the-mill process improvement. Along these 3 areas, Coimbatore is blessed with at least 7, 8 good healthcare systems. Each one of them are doing tremendously innovative work, and these hospitals can be encouraged to create that bank, then becomes the basis on which healthcare innovation can happen for students and faculties.
I'm going to give you on the problem bank that we talked about. How many of you use Digii100x? Yeah? Let me give you a story in Digii100x. I was in AWS, and Digii100x was actually a small POC done at the Delhi office of AWS on the basis of DGCA's requirement to create a solution for airport usage, right? It was a small POC that was a random experiment that happened because the problem statement had come from the ministry, and we got a couple of ISVs and solution SIs to come in together and build a solution. And when we first did this pilot at the office, nobody thought it's going to take off. It was literally not going to take off, right? And today, if you look at, I think there's 16 airports now or 20 airports now that currently use Digii100x from an entry point of perspective. And now they're using that same recognition technology for attendance monitoring in PSUs as one of the areas of focus. So what I was saying is that this entire example of trying to create a question bank or repository of problem statements that we can look at working on is a great way to build in. But I don't think our MOUs yet work on that model, because MOUs typically with large enterprises is basically a structured document that doesn't give anything to anybody, but gives you a good photo op. To figure out how to land that piece in could change the way we work. Bala, your thoughts?
Yeah. So, Shankar sir, when you started your session, you introduced yourself as Manchester of India, Coimbatore. Was. Okay, no problem, I'll stand there. So, was the nickname that is being used, right? And we also had an example that we heard about Sikkim and Manipal and all these places which are so far to reach and so on. I'm coming back to your question. Right. So we would like to bring to you one case study that came to us very, very recently. And I'd actually like to present it like a case study of things that we can do. See, there are lots of stuff we can keep berating over what could have been done, what did not get done, etc. I'd rather use this opportunity for the next 2 minutes to see whether there's something that this team over here, the Coimbatore Crucible, can actually help us create. We have 2 medical professionals here, or people who are running medical colleges. Coimbatore is also known today amongst most of us as the senior citizen capital of the country. The amount of Nana Nanis and the so-called Vanaprasthas and God knows how many brand names that we have, the amount of senior citizens that are there In case any of you happen to be here on a weekend, please do step out and go towards a mall or any temple. You will understand what it means, because the amount of people who are here, who have chosen to settle down in Coimbatore because of this natural environment over here, good quality of fruits, vegetables, whatever, it has been a natural place to attract them. They need not be South Indians, they need not be natives. They're all people from all over the country and all over the world, NRIs who've come and settled in. And that's what has made Nana Nanis so popular, that they've gone to phase 14 or God knows what. But they're all there. We had another situation. India suddenly came up on the map because of the way we've been winning World Cups in cricket. The men won it. And then we went into a situation where the women won it. And then suddenly, the blind women went and won the World Cup. And everybody, right from the president to the prime minister, was falling over themselves in wanting to host these teams and actually congratulate them and etc. But the people or the team that was being closely monitored were the blind women who actually went and won the World Cup. And I happen to be friends with the team owners, or rather, let me say the association, which is based out of Bangalore. And they had come over there to Bombay, where there was also a reception that was hosted by our chairman at their house with these three teams also. One of the things that the chairman of this association asked me, the blind women's cricket team, they asked us, he's saying that because there is a bunch of 12 or 20 women who are good at cricket and they have won it. Maybe you will end up creating an IPL for women also in the blind sector. No problem. Good. We will promote that. But what about the rest of us? There is a whole universe of blind people who really need good quality employment. What do we do with them? And one thought that came up over there is that they said that there are so many senior homes which are coming up today where people are looking for good quality service. Can the blind people be trained to be good counselors? Can be good conversationalists? Because these blind people really need people to talk to. That's all that they're looking for. They're willing to spend hours on Zoom talking to some grandchildren who don't care, generally speaking. And then, will any of the medical institutions give them some training on basic geriatric training? How to handle such people? We may want to dismiss them by saying, after all, they are blind people and they cannot handle it. They can do brilliant jobs. How do we create an environment by which they can be given dignified opportunities? You have another example which I told you about was of Sikkim. It was considered as a part of the country which was in some corner of the country. Who cares about them? But would you know that Sikkim actually makes sure that the training that the government provides their people, starting from getting them good quality English, international languages, they also train them on terms of good gambling techniques. Sikkim exports the maximum number of people from any part of the world to Vegas, to Hong Kong, and to such places. They teach them card dealing. They teach them all the right way of doing it. And therefore, they are most employable in those places, because in India, there is no job for them. They are very good with music. They are great spa technicians. And they teach them self-defense. So they are good quality manpower available, and they get very good forex. Kerala has always been known as a land which produced and sent out globally nurses, not only to our country, but all over the world. We've had good history, but somewhere we've stopped capitalizing on that. We've not learned how to build this further, forge this further into a model that will work for the next generation. Hopefully I've answered some.
I didn't know about the Sikkim thing. That's kind of news to me. Okay, thank you for that. Okay. And the government does that? Okay, fantastic. So I'll tell you what, we got about 15 minutes left before we close it out. I want to try and move to ideas on what we could do differently over a 3 to 5 year window to try and address this problem that we have around making sure that academia is producing industry-ready graduates. And what can we do differently? One is the MOU culture. What do we change there? Second is what do we do differently to try and make sure we're able to move this in an accelerated manner over the next couple of years? I'm for you.
So I think we've already touched upon important topics like MOU, curriculum design and things like that. So what we can do differently is I think the most important stakeholder in this particular initiative is, I think, good faculty members, right? I think how institutions reward faculty in terms of incentivization or promotion or things like that can also be aligned with how well they are industry aligned in terms of, for example, right now, I think we have a solid structure in terms of if a faculty has a PhD degree, he or she is eligible for an associate professor or a professor. But I think we can just relook at it a little differently because I think the success of this entire industry, academia, whatever that we're talking about, faculty play a very major role. And I think they are an important, part of this journey where we can make it successful. So I feel institutions should look at probably rewarding faculty members in terms of, how, for example, they do a co-patenting with an industry person. You reward them well. He might not be a PhD graduate, it's fine. But still, if he's doing something good with the industry, similarly, mentoring a particular team for a very good startup, right? Mentoring the faculty students in probably coming up with an amazing idea where they're able to nurture the students, mentor the students, and take them to the next level. So I think we should start looking at faculty members as very important players in this journey and incentivize them and look at promotions based on what they're able to deliver. I think that plays a major role.
Yeah, I think totally. I think faculty is the key element. I think, so I'm going to give you an example. I've been around with the education business for quite some time. And I was in Microsoft when we had this huge problem around piracy. No campuses wanted to pay Microsoft license fees. And there was hell on earth with Microsoft getting into legal battles with institutions, a nasty time, okay? And if you look at it today, people are okay paying the nominal fee that's there. So things are changing, but it's changing in an interestingly slow pace. I think faculty played a critical part to make sure to drive that messaging to management around the importance of having licensed software on campus. I still remember the workshops that Microsoft used to do. And I think that's one of the change elements that we can invest time in building on for sure. Totally agree on that. So what about you?
I think who was the speaker on the, I'm forgetting his name, sorry, Carrier 360, Mahesh. So Mahesh was just sharing with me outside that, and I completely agree with him. He says, in 3 to 4 years, all these coding jobs are going to go away. And I'm not the first one being an alarmist here, I think. And we are predominantly, as an educational institution, oriented towards, because that's the pedigree. I mean, we are part of the IT industry, and we are pretty much have put all our eggs in one basket in that direction. This speed and scale and scope in which how AI is transforming, disrupting jobs is a real thing that keeps me up at night, at least. And if there's one thing I would do, Sunil, if I became the health, I guess, education minister of India, I would say all institutions are autonomous. You are innocent until proven guilty. I mean, it's been the reverse, right? You don't know, we don't believe in your ability to be mature. But I think we have to flip it, because I think if you don't do this, it'll have a big impact. I mean, we've survived. Like I told you, we are one of among the panelists here, probably the youngest autonomous to have gained the autonomous status. But I think given what is the disruption that's coming, I would say I think educational institutions must be given the full liberty to try and innovate and survive on their own. And that should, again, give everybody the survival instincts will help institutions to do and try everything that's possible. One thing, I think Doctor will also appreciate this. I mean, we today, nursing has it correct. because you can't have a nursing college license without being associated with the hospital, right? And if for some reason that hospital connection goes away, your license is cancelled. I think we need something similar to that in engineering. When I speak about engineering, because that's the other space that we are heavily invested in. And not only look at the licensing, you have the ability to continue to maintain your engineering college programs only if you're associated with, say, an engineering cluster or some cluster that is there within the local SME environment. And in addition to that, I think we need to have an ability to make companies earn credits, right? Just like we have students earning academic credit, we should make companies earn credit in the system to the extent that they provide contribution to that problem statement bank, how they engage with the faculties or the students, convert that into a POC, convert that into something that they innovate and they can benefit, and they reward it. I think that once that cycle is done, they've earned a certain number of credits. I think some kind of mechanisms of that sort will again ensure that there's enough incentive both from industry and academia to work together.
No, totally aligned on that thinking. I think there is this program called the Unnati Labs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's called Intel Unnati Labs. I'm sure some of you are members of that program, which was built in 21 or even before that, to try and drive creation of labs to try and drive technical learning downstream into academics, into institutions that are beyond metros. And that was the intent of creating that. About 250 such labs that are there right now. It's a good program. If that's interest to you all, do write to me. I can help you connect with the right people. I'm going to pick on this point around AI taking away coding jobs. I saw a pilot. Okay, this is not to create alarmists in the room as such, but I saw a pilot of somebody that was using Claude 4.0, with this Anthropic LLM that's there, for coding. And he showed me a demo where what would take normally 4 people, maybe a week to work, was done about 4 hours time. Okay, so there is a situation coming our way where I think coding as a role is going through some significant change. It's already going through change. We're seeing a lot of reduction happening because of that. But I know that there is solutions in the market that primarily solve for coding very, very effectively and is able to do a much better, high quality job just because the person doing it understands the fundamentals very well. I think that's where the difference really comes in. And I think if you have hardcore engineers that understand coding fundamentals, using the AI tool to make it faster is something that's an outcome we can look at. It may not take away all jobs, but it will have an impact for sure. And I think it's coming our way. Okay, Bala, back to you. Okay, the question really is that if you were to change a couple of things to try and make the industry academia gap get corrected over the next couple of years, what are the 3 or 4 things that you think we should do?
So on the coding example that you just took, the analogy that you may want to refer to also is it's as bad or as good as what the typewriting shorthand people feared when computers arrived. We all thought that the jobs are going away. But then basically today you would see that some of those people still continue to be in good demand as long as they upgraded their skills to be able to at least basically handle the same typing on a computer. They need not fear the computer, the machine or whatever. Yeah, there could be certain people who could have got outdated. So it's a matter of we also making sure that along with coding or any other skills that you're referring to which an AI is feared to take over, can we also make sure that the quality of manpower in the industry is upgraded with the help of the academia in such a way that they are still relevant for the next number of years that they're going to be in service. Now, going back to your question.
I want to add one point on that. When the pandemic happened, right, there was this fear that we're all doomed. It's not, education is going to shut down. Institutions are not going to function the way it's supposed to function. I still remember the 2019, 2020 surge, right? And I'll give you an example of Delhi University, and it's a great case study, right? Delhi University came to us saying that there are 600,000 students who had to come for the examinations and could not have access because they were not digitized. And we put a team together to try and build a platform on using Moodle to try and help that campus go online completely. Okay, and That platform went on to become something called Samarth. You've seen it's a national higher education platform. That platform was built from that campus. And I think the challenge is that, or the challenge I want to bring to Bala really is that, unlike the pandemic, where we adopted online learning aggressively, everyone went online, everyone went flipped classroom, everyone had Zoom, etc. And as soon as things cleared out, we went back to the old way of classrooms, okay? And online started declining. We've seen the cycle go in. I don't think AI is going to change that way. I think that the change is going to be more permanent with regard to AI. But I think that's going to be more affected with regard to a long-term change in the industry itself, is where the difference would come in.
Yes, of course. Because, as I said earlier, in the case of computing, computers have been there to stay, and that's how AI is born. The same way this is going to happen. And what AI may lead to in the future is yet to be seen. But yes, will the industry and academia collaborate? So going back to the point that you made just now, so will we learn how to start working together so that we create patents, we create an environment by which there is a feeling of wanting to work together with each other? See, today the handshake is this far, no further. That mindset with which the academia and industry operate on, that is something which is not really helping us to move further. So can we participate, let's say, for example, even in the kind of students that a college is actually hiring in? So she is from Hosur, right? You're from Hosur. Now let's say if Titan is based out of Hosur, and they decide that, okay, we want to co-participate in the kind of people who will come in. One, it could be from the mindset with which they are going to be operating. We need factory workers. We know the kind of precision industry that we are in. We understand. And therefore, we co-collaborate and actually decide, okay, what kind of people should be coming in, and so on and so forth. So that could be one area by which we realize that, okay, we will co-own the problem, and we actually collaborate to work together in terms of both the curriculum, the way we take the people in, way we do the internship, and then eventually, then afterwards, also when we hire these people, we are a part of the whole ecosystem. So therefore, we are in it together. We believe that we are together in a partnership relationship. Otherwise, I am free to go and hire from anywhere, everywhere in the country. You go and do whatever education you want, and you are at best in my backyard. That's the way most of us are now currently operating on. So that's an issue over there. This whole thing about wanting to demonstrate results as a city or a town. So if you look at it, I mean, many of these locations, including Coimbatore, for example, we talked about. And if tomorrow, if we ended up creating this Coimbatore Cave or whatever that was announced over here, if you actually called it as Coimbatore Crucible and actually said, listen, I'm going to have a problem and I'm going to have 10 other universities and anybody industry wants to work together, we will come and solve the problem, we go away. Then we have the next item. You could have 10 different crucibles happening concurrently, and we're all together solving it. We are enjoying the process. So there is students, there is academia, there is industry, maybe the government as well, and we solve it, and that's for the nation. Then we're coming together. Today, nobody is seemingly owning the problem. And if we come up with a success, suddenly everybody is the father. That's the problem.
Yeah, so when you say crucible, how would you define that?
When I say crucible, I may end up saying that we come to the party. Like we do a party, right? We all come to the party together. We all decide who brings in what. That's a mutually agreed thing.
Thank you. Just to get the audience to jump in with your questions, we can take maybe 2 questions from the audience in case you have any for specific. Let me shout out loudly. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. When it comes to industry, I think there is always a hesitancy in investing in R&D because they don't see the results. There is a gestation period of several years before results can be seen. There is very little incentive from federal, central government or state government in terms of investing everywhere. I would like to ask the academic heads as well as the members of the panel from industry, what can be done to create this crucible? Because Crucibles are, I think, is a very good model in terms of creating success because it's a shared responsibility and shared success, but also needs shared investment. How could we incentivize the industries to participate in this crucible?
I'll take it from the industry point of view. So the so-called incentivization that you're referring to, the success and the discipline with which these crucible operates is above all what is important. If it is going to be one more of those academic, conclaves, as you would call it as, if you just coming together for the sake of it and there's some sponsorship money that you're throwing down there and then nothing much there's no accountability, then I don't think the industry would really come forward beyond a point. You may have a great start, but then you don't sustain. Then you need to incentivize it. But the moment you realize that the crucible actually demonstrates results, as I said earlier, you would not need to incentivize it any further because now there are people who are coming forward and running forward to say, hey, listen, I have a particular problem. It is a short window within which I need to solve it and I will actually get it solved. It may be from the agri industry, it may be from the tech industry, it may be from telecommunication, it doesn't matter. But the right kind of people come together and everybody is participating in it together with that zeal. That is what we need. So the overseeing body of that crucible, which is accountable and demonstrates the results, that's what is the incentive.
Sir, take another question.
Thanks for the perspectives and insights. You mentioned about developing some kind of professional development units on the part of the companies to collaborate with academia, and some kind of a proof of concept can be developed from the collaboration. What kind of checks and balances do you suggest to ensure that both the institution and the companies fall in place to do this kind of professional development units to be built into the system?
Obviously, the first question that needs to be addressed is intellectual property. Much of these engagements require you to have very strong clarity in terms of what is the, when companies are exposing their problems, they're obviously bringing in a lot of domain knowledge also to bring, for example, the engagement I spoke about with T&Q, where we are building this, their own customized version of a plagiarism checker. It's very clear that the students, what they get exposed to in terms of what their company teams bring in. It's very clear as to what is the amount of disclosure that they need to do. And sometimes when faculties also get involved or some of our industry mentors get involved who are still part of our educational institution, those are things that they have to, one is getting them sensitized to this fact, because many of the time, some of the problem with academia is that we don't necessarily have the great sensitivity to IP, and that's something that needs to be addressed very clearly up front. Sometimes the aspect of it is that, for example, we have an engagement with ThoughtWorks, where we are creating the next generation of software development vehicles. That kind of engagement very clearly means that ThoughtWorks decides to what extent in terms of engagement, they all work to specific timelines and deadlines, and therefore ensuring that your team, the academic team, responds in kind to the nature of time criticality also is a second important factor to be looked at. Those are two things, at least from my personal experience, have had an impact.
Any other last questions? Wind up? Any exciting questions? Okay, so we have
Panelists, Mr. Thyagu Valliappa couldn't join us today, and we have a video message from him. We will now present the message. Thank you.
And Sona Star. Happy to be connecting with you, at least on the digital media. I was hoping to be there when the Digii100 invite came from Mr. Hemant Saha, and I was looking forward to this because it is a very favorite subject of mine, the industry institute linkage. And I've been working on this for the last 10 to 12 years, and must say that we've done a lot of work at our Sona College of Technology and Sona Scale, and happy that this program is happening at Coimbatore. On the backdrop of yesterday's EU, the mother of all deals in India, I think Tamil Nadu is going to benefit the maximum. The auto industry, the textile industry, the leather industry, all are going to be, the biggest beneficiary of all this, as well as going forward, the employment and the 10 trillion economy of the country is just a mere few years away. Having said this, I think the industry institute linkage is the most critical thing to take us forward. Because today we find people just following the AI generation. I think the manufacturing after the EU deal is going to turn around. Canada deal is around the corner. I think most of the countries are looking at manufacturing. So I think today we should look at sectoral divisions between each of our colleges. Let it be a mechanical, or let it be an electrical, electronics, or ECE, or mechatronics, or fashion technology, or textile. Each department has to look at it in a separate way. You cannot generalize everything, because for a textile sector, today fashion technology is going to be a game changer. I'm happy that more than 17 companies headed today from a Sona College student at an Aditya Birla in Bangalore out of 25 companies. And the way we looked at things at a mechanical engineering in 2021, where the things were really difficult. And today, having signed up with TANCAM and the 3D experience model, having brought in the first in the state of Tamil Nadu, today I'm happy that we have more than 2,000 of our engineers across the country getting close to ₹1 million. And this is the way that we addressed it at a college level. As far as PMIS is concerned, Prime Minister Internship Scheme, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think at a Tamil Nadu level, we should plan to take this up in a little bigger way, because there are only about 200 companies doing this. You can immediately ramp it up. And if you really see, the practical knowledge today is the difference between a good college and a not so great college. So I think at a level of a college and an institute, there is a huge opportunity for us to look inwards and say, why are we not getting our people immediately ready for the industry? Because there's a difference between job ready and industry ready and job ready.
That was quite abrupt. We couldn't ask him any questions, so we'll have just hear that and get on, okay? Hey, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, panelists. It was a great conversation. Hope that was useful for your time that you spent today with us. Thank you very much.